This is the original home of Palmer and Elizabeth Sherman, who had a farm of 100 acres here in Farmington in the 1850s. Palmer is a very interesting person. His father died, Adam, and he went with his mother, Nancy, to Southfield, where there were other Sherman families. At age 14, he started working already. He was 5 years old at the time he came here, and at 14, he was going to, like many other children in this era, he was going to school in the winter, and during the summer he was working. He earned all of $5, which was a goodly sum in those days at age 14. By the time, as time passed, he met Loretta Ward, whose family had a farm on 12 Mile Road in Farmington Township at the time, and he married her in 1851. Palmer Shermans had 9 children, 4 girls and 5 boys. And of course, for a farm family, those 5 boys were like gold. They helped to clear the land and build a farm. On this farm, he grew grain, and he had, some of the land must have been very good because he had fruit trees. He had 3 separate orchards that he planted himself. Time went on, there of course was the Civil War, and he is reputed to have been involved with the Underground Railroad to a degree, and the Underground Railroad that we had records of here at Farmington Township were mostly Quakers, but he was a Methodist, and it has recently come to our attention that other groups were also involved in the Underground Railroad, including the Methodists and the Baptists that were here. After the Civil War in 1867, he built the brick house, which we know today as the Longacre House, that was purchased later by the Goodnauers as Longacre. So they had this lovely brick home that they had, and right next to it was this little house that nothing happened to. But then they moved the little house later when Luman Goodnar came in and turned the house that the Shermans had into his year-round residence. Palmer Sherman, about this point, was renting out parts of his land to other farmers to use and selling off a few pieces of it. After Palmer Sherman died, the land was sold to Luman Goodnar, a Detroit attorney who took the land first as a summer residence, and then in 1918 they moved the family out here to Longacre House, which is another story. They kept expanding that into a very fine estate. At that point, Luman Goodnar looked out one day, saw this little house in his driveway and didn't want it there, and moved it to this area, which was actually the service area for his estate. And they moved this house in for servants' quarters. And there's even a little area that was the groom's house. It's separated from this property. And the interesting stable. It was a stable, a garage, and an area where they were able to have a apartment for the chauffeur and his wife, who was the cook for the Goodnauers. And this little house, we were very lucky that it was saved, because many of these little adorable little houses were not saved. And there are various features that we'll take a look at. Brian has turned this into a historical museum, and not only can you see all the history that he has here, but you can see what a house of 1857, 58 looks like. I am here with Brian Golden, who has taken over this very interesting little house that once we got inside, it proved to be larger than I thought. And as I looked around, I noticed the original windows are here, and the stone wall that they put up. Originally, I guess Palmer Sherman had a little picket fence around it. Now, what are you doing with this room?
This is actually, this room is called the Farmington Gallery, and the Farmington Gallery highlights the history behind the entire township. One of the interesting aspects of the Heritage and History Center currently is to be a comprehensive museum, so that not only will people get a sense of what history is like here in what used to be the township, but also the two cities that have come from the township, one being the city of Farmington Hills and the other one being the city of Farmington.
And the Farmington, of course, the city of Farmington, of course, was the shopping area for the farmers of this area.
True, that's very true. So there's the formation of the two cities and the stories behind the formation of the two cities.
Governor Warner did an awful lot involved with the city, and the Warners were always involved with that city. They were merchants there.
Yeah, very much so. In fact, even the predecessor, Seth Warner, who was an early pioneer here in the area, had a lot to do with the settlement of Farmington, the township of Farmington.
You know, of course, he was an attorney, and he helped to found the original documents that made Farmington.
Exactly. A little known fact, a lot of people that live in the community have no idea that this area was founded by Arthur Power, who was a Quaker, who came from Farmington, New York, believe it or not, and established this as the first Quaker community here in Michigan.
Yes, and there's a couple others that are around, and I even found one in South Carolina that's still in operation.
Unbelievable.
Yes, the Quakers got around, and some of them have survived.
They sure did.
Here they all joined the other churches because they had all these traveling ministers that came out that were so attractive to them.
In fact, just to short tail on your last comment, back around the time that Arthur Power actually came here to Michigan, there was a movement within the Quaker community called Hicksite Quakers, and Hicksite Quakers wanted to be more ecumenical. They wanted to be more like the rest of the Christian world, in that they wanted to sing psalms and have sermons and so on and so forth. Typically we're very quiet, because if the Lord moved you to speak, then you would talk, and if the Lord didn't move you to speak, then you would sit in silence.
Well, the Hicksville group has been still around, where some of the other Quakers have sort of melted away.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right.
Can you tell me more about some of the features of the museum that you put in?
Certainly. The room that we're in, which is called the Farmington Gallery, has a series of montages around the walls that show or depictions of the way life was like here in Farmington. When I say Farmington, I'm really referring to the township. From the very beginnings with Nathan Power, portions of his diary or journal that he kept, as well as other features within the room. Also, in this particular gallery, we have a video kiosk that we show videos, so that if people want to get a sense of other aspects of our history, they can come in here and sit in here and watch the video. This also makes for a great meeting room. This being the largest room in the house, there is a screen here. We have guest speakers that will come here. A few groups in the area are having meetings here, so it's proving to be a delightful place for people to come and gather. I would be remiss if I didn't mention the aid and the assistance that I've had from Steve Brock, from the assistance I've had from Dave Boyer, who's bent over backwards to make this a delightful place. And then Dave Boyer's staff, there's Randy and the rangers here in the park, have been phenomenal as far as needs and things that make this a great meeting place. There'll be a lot of improvements that will be happening here over the course of the next several months.
Tell me about the other rooms you have in the house.
In the next room is a very small gallery. It's called the Revolving Display Gallery, and what that room does is it gives purpose for people to keep wanting to come back. In other words, the displays and the exhibits in that room changes. For instance, right now we're celebrating Women's History Month, so the displays in that room are highlighting women and famous women in history, predominantly famous Farmington women. Maria Webster, who was an inventress or an inventor here in Farmington. She invented a horseless carriage, much like a bicycle, and you'll have an opportunity to catch a little bit of a video that I have. On top of that, there is highlighting the life and career of Emily Butterfield, who was the first female architect in the state of Michigan, hails from Farmington. Her father was Wells Butterfield, the first mayor of Farmington. And then we also have Lillian Drake Avery, who grew up here in Farmington and was somewhat of an artist even as a small child, and actually did drawings of her home and the surrounding area. Gave us a glimpse of what Farmington, or life was like here in Farmington. She later went on to be a county-wide presence. She was the secretary of the Oakland County Pioneer and Historical Society, and she did an extensive research on genealogies, oral histories, and photo histories of people here in Oakland County. So she's a real treat, and we highlight her life also.
Yes, she married a physician and moved to Pontiac.
Yeah, she
and
did. And then she became very active with the Oakland County Pioneer and Historical Society. Very, very interesting lady, very colorful history.
And she documented, of course, the Underground Railroad from the
That's right.
Quaker part with, of course, the Powers were very active in the state of Michigan, establishing various and sundry other things.
Yes, she was an amazing lady.
Amazing. She was able to do that. And she had her own name on there. It wasn't Mrs. Doctor so-and-so.
No, it was Lillian Drake Avery. Yeah, she was. We are trying very hard right now to get her elected on the Michigan Women's History Hall of Fame for her contributions that she's made in Oakland County.
That sounds wonderful.
Yes.
She should have that.
Yeah, she's terrific. Now, another room that is here in the Heritage and History Center is our Welcome Center. It's the welcoming area or receiving area where we have pictures on display as well as items that people can take home with them. I opted to do something a little bit different in that I didn't really want to sell anything here, but there's a need to earn money here because there's no admission fees here. But it's already proving to be an interesting place for people to come and gather. I've had several groups here already, and I'm looking forward to having this to be a point in which people can come and meet and learn a little bit about Farmington history and so on.
You know, I was looking around for the loft when the Shermans had 9 children. Where did they put them? And then we found behind a curtain, which was once behind a door, the stairway to the loft, which were the bedrooms for these children.
That's right. This is surprisingly, because this house is so small, essentially the museum itself encompasses about 800 square feet, which really isn't a whole lot. And there are certain aspects of the house that is not open to the public, but are being used for storage purposes and so on. One is the basement, and the other is the upper area or the loft area.
How about the groom's room?
Back in the back of this house, there is another room that is totally unfinished. In fact, there's no plaster walls anymore. They have been stripped mainly because of insects. There's been infestation of termites and so on. Eventually, what the hope is to actually move into that area to refinish it, and use that as either meeting space or office space or research space, which is one of the aspects to this establishment is to create a place that people can come and do research. This museum wasn't formed in a vacuum. One of the things that we opted to do was to bring in stakeholders into that are part of the community into a museum advisory board. So we have representation of the Farmington Historical Society and the Farmington Historical Commission. Then on top of that, we have representation of the Farmington Hills Historical Commission, the Farmington Hills Historic District Commission. Then we have representation from Farmington Public Schools and the Farmington Community Library. So we have a group of people that are stakeholders in the community that are helping to direct or steer the events and the things that are happening here at the museum, and take that to the next level. Also, another group that is responsible for what you see around you are our group of volunteers. Now, they call themselves the Friends of the Heritage and History Center. Now, I think that's very appropriate because being that this was a Quaker community, to call them the Friends. Now, those of you that are watching this program may or may not realize that Quakers are referred to as the Society of Friends, so it's appropriate that the group of volunteers call themselves the Friends. So it's a little play on words. So, and it's those people that have embraced this facility to the point where they've created a volunteer arm that come here, and we've done several events. We've got an event coming up to celebrate Women's History Month. But on top of that, they've come here and we've had a potluck here. We've come here to socialize. So it's more than just a museum. It's really becoming a gathering place, which is what the whole point of creating this institution.
And you can go from here to the Warner Museum and see what a Victorian house is like.
Absolutely, we've created it. I'm grateful that you brought the Governor Warner Mansion up in this conversation, because the attempt is to complement each other. There are wonderful things at the Governor Warner Mansion that we could never have here, and nor would we want to do that, because if someone wants to see a Victorian house decked out in Victorian furnishings, and learn about Victorian lifestyle or how things were in Farmington in the Victorian era, going to the Governor Warner Mansion is a treat. On top of that, learning about Governor Warner and his family and the contributions that they've made to our community is insurmountable. So I would invite anyone that is interested in learning about the total history of the community. You can't do that without seeing the Governor Warner Mansion, and because of the Heritage and History Center, this completes the package.
Wander up the hill to the Logacre House, which is
that's a neat treat too.
Yeah, 1930s house.
Yes, exactly. Lumen Goodenow did for this part of the township was phenomenal, especially attracting a lot of the wealthy from Detroit to come to Farmington and create either a summer home or getaway from the hustle and bustle of the big city.
I think his selling to Ferry Moore Seed had something to do with this, that brought these people out here.
You know, absolutely. I can't agree with you more, Ruth. I think that was the connection between the ultra wealthy out of Detroit and this agricultural area was them coming here because of the Fairy Seed Company.
Yeah, and when they came in with their estates, they would gallop up and down Farmington Road. Can you imagine a horse on Farmington Road today?
You know, well, today, yeah. But it wasn't that long ago that Farmington Road was a dirt road, as you know, and so I can picture what life was like here back in the 30s when people rode horses around here. Even though, in as much as there were automobiles, Lumen Goodenow was very avid horseman, and he loved riding horses. So coming out here, aside from riding on his own acreage, he could travel all over. And in fact, his daughter Ellie Spicer would go to town all the time, a horse-drawn conveyance like a wagon or a carriage.
They had a group of Farmington youngsters that called themselves the Rough Riders. A lot of the youngsters in this area had horses of their own, even if they weren't super wealthy, with a super wealthy group.
Sure, sure.
Brian, if somebody wanted to contact you about the museum, how would they do this?
There's several ways, Ruth. Thanks for asking. There's several ways to contact us. One of the ways to contact us would be by telephone. We do have phone service and we have internet service here. So bring your laptops because we have Wi-Fi here at the Heritage and History Center. In fact, this is the only place in Heritage Park that there's Wi-Fi present. But we do have a telephone number for the facility. It's area code 248-987-6898. We do have a website that's under construction currently. Go to the Heritage and History Center.org and you will be connected with our website. Or you can reach us or reach me by email, and my email address is bgolden@pastways.info.
Pastways, of course, is your nonprofit.
It's the nonprofit that's actually running the museum. It's very interesting, too, because I've had a few people come in here assuming that this is a city-funded project, and it's not. The house belongs to the city, but what you see inside is actually being funded by a nonprofit called Pastways.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Just wonderful. And thank you so much for letting us come and do this. It's been great.
Thank you.